Live. So, welcome everybody to the very first test of Hangouts on Air from the Center for Applied Coaching Science in the College of Physical Activity and Sports Sciences at WVU. We're coming to you from on a bright sunny day in Morgantown, West Virginia. I'm pleased to announce that hanging out with us today is Dr. Clayton Kuklick. Recently graduated from Southern Miss, and he's here today to talk about long-term athlete development, uh, coaching education, particularly reflection, and how that plays a role in coaching education. And hopefully, we'll get him to tell us some stories about calling pitches, professional baseball. So, Dr. Kuklick, welcome.
Dr. King, I would really like to thank you so much for having me as part of this broadcast. I'm very excited to launch this new piece that we've put together through Google Hangouts, and I'm excited to see how this broadcast turns out.
So, well, as we all are, I'm sure Dr. Diefenbach's going to be jealous when she sees this product. But we'll get her on soon enough. So let's start here. Recently finished your dissertation, and so if we were in an elevator going to the 50th floor, so we're at a conference in a big time place with the big hotel, and you got a little bit of time, give us the skinny on what you did for your dissertation.
You know what? It's funny, Dr. King, because I was asked the exact same question in the exact same tense during my dissertation defense, and it revolved around the idea of if you're in an elevator and you had to describe in the next 2 sentences what my dissertation was on. So anyway, to answer your question, I am well versed in that, in answering that question. And what I study is how coaches, being youth coaches, coaching in youth coaches in coach education in the higher education setting, in formal or informal settings, how they learn through reflective practice. And that's really what I specialize in. That's it in a nutshell. And there's obviously various strategies that and learning theories that are related to reflection and reflective practice that we could use to explain how coaches learn out in the field or in coach education.
Very good. So if you had to give us the two first bullet points on the conclusion slide during your dissertation defense, what were those first two bullets?
The two bullet points are that reflective journaling is one way to facilitate learning through reflection in the university-based higher education setting of coach education students. The second bullet point, without getting into too much detail, is that practicum students in this setting engage in a variety of different experiences that can in turn help coach educators or inform them of some of the situations that they may be engaging in out in the field. So in essence, by some of this research, we can gain a better understanding and better prepare our students for those internship or practicum experiences. And just to clarify, I use the word practicum synonymously with internship in this case. It's just what we called it in the setting in which I did the research.
So basically an applied field placement for students where they were.
Correct. So these were upper level students who have engaged in coursework, and then we're looking at how they used that knowledge out in the field or developed it out in the field through reflection and through their experiences, essentially.
Very good. If I could follow up with the question, were you able to do any comparisons with the either within your study or with some of the existing literature that compared what you found in the students that were in a practicum experience as compared to um, experienced coaches or
Uh, I yes, I did look at some of the existing literature. I'd just be careful with the language "experience coaching" or "experience" or "practicing coaches." I would say because experience to me, I would think of having many years of experience, and in regards to reflection, if we are reflecting on a continual basis, then we would assume that their knowledge would be further developed rather than a practicing coach. So in regards to expertise. So practicing coaches in regards to we'll call coaching students in this case in the comparison, there were some similar comparisons in regards to what um, practicing coaches would consider problems in professional practice, and such as disciplining athletes are a typical problem that practicing coaches would cite as a problem. And similarly, coaching students also cite that as being a typical problem. I think what we found was that the coaching students um, found difficulty or knew and wanted to provide this warm, caring coaching environment where they develop this coach-athlete relationship. However, we're also torn by this perhaps social perception and or their want to be this authoritative figure as a coach. So many of the problems they experienced were tightroping or understanding this relationship between being a firm authoritative figure, yet they also wanting to develop this positive coach-athlete relationship. So to some degree, there was this added piece that's different from practicing coaches, is that they wanted to do this. They knew this was right, and I think we can infer perhaps that coach education was doing its part in instilling this. However, the difficulty was applying this into professional practice while they were also trying to uphold this mission to be this disciplinarian and authoritative figure as a coach. In regards to some of the differences, so to some degree that was similar, and there was some ways that we could add to the literature. More specifically, one I think interesting thing that we can learn from, I guess, this experience, or that was new, where that was that many of the students at times identified a coaching problem that was directly related to the practicum coach or internship supervisor coach. Supervisor coach. So essentially, they identified their practicum coach as the coaching problem. Well, this would suggest that there is a need for quality mentors, which we already know to some degree in coaching. But perhaps how this informs coach education is that we can, as coach educators in the university-based program, we can perhaps also facilitate learning or better prepare the mentor coach or the site supervisor, not site supervisor. I want to clarify that the practicum or internship coach, better prepare them for being a mentor out in the field. So as a coach educator, me or you being that site supervisor for the course at West Virginia, it's 491, ACE 491 internship. We could, as the coach educator, help develop that practicum coach or internship coach as a mentor, and provide them with, these are some of the experiences that are meaningful to the student that the student may experience, and this is ways that you could perhaps facilitate learning out in the field.
Yeah, very good. So I've experienced a fairly similar thing both with our entering students and then those that are entering into the program, like the pre-major students, that are very well versed in what a positive coach sounds like. They can
Yeah.
talk to talk, but it rarely survives first contact with actual athletes when they're in charge. And I think that you got onto two of the really important pieces there. One uh, is trying to sort out the credibility issue, especially when they're real close in age to the people that they're coaching. And then the second part is we're trying to figure out how to fit in with the coaching style of the, like you said, we're trying to evolve site supervisors, the coaches that are out in the field that are leading the practicum and trying to develop them into mentors. And I think that we've got kind of a full spectrum of that going on right now. But so your research in the area will be very valuable, kind of driving that evolution. I'm going to kind of take that one step further and ask you, so how is the work that you did as a graduate student informing the things that you're interested in right now? So it's an opportunity to tell us what you're having fun studying and working on now.
Yeah, so currently I am, further developing reflective practice in different contexts beyond the university-based system. Although I've also explored how practicing coaches learn through reflection, and just to, additionally also clarify the framework that I use and am most familiar with is Shun's theory of reflective practice, and the citation is 1983 and 1987, which he used a lot in explaining how practitioners learn through reflection by engaging in a cycle of problems and identifying problems, strategizing, and experimenting with these problems in what he would suggest to be a double loop reflective cycle, where we go around in many and through multiple cycles, which creates these deep learning experiences. So when I was discussing reflective practice, I know there are a variety of different models. His model is derived from Dewey's experiential learning theory. So I'm currently working on some pieces to explain or conceptualize reflective practice, as I just mentioned, with Shun's theory for strength and conditioning coaches. And I think this might be a significant piece to the field, considering that strength and conditioning, the NSCA has done a wonderful job of developing coaches and adding to the field of strength and conditioning coaching by providing scientific-based empirical research regarding exercise programming, nutrition, ways to enhance athlete performance through strength and conditioning, agility work, and through a variety of different means. The point is that they have provided scientific research. However, we know that practicing coaches implement this scientific research rather and craft it and use this scientific research to craft their trade into a form of professional artistry, or what we would call this expertise, this crafted knowledge is another term for that. And this fits directly into Shun's view that we take this technical, rational way of thinking, this fact, which, in a sense, strength and conditioning, they control for a variety of variables in their research, that if we perform X amount of sets at X amount of intensity, that we will have some sort of results. So the idea that reflection is important for developing strength and conditioning coaches, because we can take this wonderful foundation that the NSCA and the strength and conditioning field of body of work has created right, and further develop this into a professional form of artistry, professional artistry for strength and conditioning coaches. So one way that we could explain that, of how that knowledge is crafted, is through that reflective cycle. So, experimenting with those exercise programs and considering motivational factors, psychological implications, the environment in which we are implementing the scientific-based research to ultimately enhance athletic performance. So that's currently what I'm conceptualizing now.
Yeah. So if see if I can reword this or translate it back a little bit. So it sounds like you're looking at what one of our kind of deeper projects is, which is to figure out how to take the content knowledge that is provided in a variety of different, through a variety of different channels. So we have content knowledge that comes from the textbooks and from the classroom experience, and from some of the other sources, whether it be the internet or not, and figure out, and using reflective practice for the students to be able to make it their own, so that they can do the two things that seem to not fit together all of the time for students, which is, be yourself, but be this way that we're teaching you in class.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Reflective practice is the sculpting tools that allow you to do both at the same time.
I like that word, sculpting tool.
Okay.
Crafting knowledge. Yeah. So essentially, I mean, in the strength and conditioning case, So in the strength and conditioning case, I mean, we just the rationale is that they have created this large body of research regarding overtraining and all those things that I had mentioned. However, out in the field, we're crafting that. So in coaching in general, in the general coaching piece, it's very similar as you suggested. We take this content that is presented in this formal education, we apply these concepts out in the field and develop them, craft them, mold them, sculpt them is another word, through this cycle of reflection to fit the contextual environment or whatever group we're working with. Essentially, it doesn't always fit into a nice puzzle piece or a whole. So.
All right, very good. I'm looking forward to reading that when you get the draft manuscript put together.
It's about to go out this afternoon as soon as we get off the horn here.
Well, then I won't hold you a lot longer than necessary. But I just got a question just came in through the chat, and they said, well, I couldn't let you go without asking you, how do you know when to call a changeup? 3-2 count.
Wow, this is good stuff, and I could give you a 20-minute discussion on this. The changeup is my 100% favorite pitch. However, I am the strong believer in my pitch calling philosophy revolves around the idea that we do not want to give free bases until it was absolutely necessary. So I would have to, although I don't want to come back with more questions, such as, is there a base open? What hitter are we talking about in the order? So in this case, I would suggest that a changeup is a viable option anytime that a fastball is in sequence. And I'll repeat that again. A changeup is a viable and live option every time a fastball is in sequence or in place. So regarding your situation, 3-2 count, although I can give you a bunch of reasons why I wouldn't, such that if it's the 9-hitter, a 3-2 count, and based on my rule, I would not throw a changeup. I'm pumping fastballs. Okay. Additionally, it also is dependent on if there's a base open, how many outs there are, where we are in the order, and uh, whether the pitcher can throw a change, whether he likes his changeup, can he throw it for a strike?
But I guess maybe that's the best way to kind of frame the question for today's discussion, because I do appreciate that we could probably go most of the night on
Yeah.
with if we left all the hypotheticals open. But maybe the best way to frame the question is to say, what do you need to see from the pitcher? So all of the other things that would put a fastball in play. And what would you need to see from the pitcher in particular that would lead you to say, all right, let's bring the hook this time and break this guy off at the knees, right?
Okay. So break it off. So is it breaking ball or changeup that you're referring to?
Well, I was like, he's going to throw something that barely is going to make it to the plate, and the guy's going to swing twice before it arrives, right?
Okay. Yeah. So a good rule of thumb.
He's sitting on fastball
Yeah.
and looks fastball. So what has to be going on with your pitcher during that game for you to put that in the in your hand, like for you to have that in your arsenal for the day?
Well, a couple things. I mean, I can notice the confidence just with the pitch. So again, we go back to that. My rule of thumb is a changeup is live anytime a fastball is intact. So if, for example, I would be able to identify this in typically 1-0, 2-1, 1-1 counts, which are even ups. These are good changeup counts, and I would be able to identify whether early on in the count whether the pitcher has enough confidence to be able to throw it in the 3-2. Because typically, again, we go back to that rule of thumb that we're throwing this changeup when the fastball is live, which typically happens when we're behind in the count. So, thus, if we have enough confidence and early on in the game and early in the count that we are able to do that, then when the 10 comes in the 3-2 count, when it's make or break it, and I'm guessing, I'm assuming that you are presenting that situation to me, when the game is on the line, then we would be able to identify. But at some point throughout the game, whether it's a starting pitcher, it comes down to there's just a time to make the pitch. Now, I can use all these confidence times, but then again, at the end of the day, there's a base open. We need to get the guy out. We need a swing and the miss. We got to make a pitch. You got to make a pitch at some point down in the game, whether you're confident or not. That makes or breaks. So again, I can't give you a definitive answer. I'm tight roping back and forth again. But again, it goes back to the rule of thumb, and I can come back to whether they're confident early in the count, early in the game when it matters for this 3-2 changeup that you're referring to.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you playing along this afternoon with us. So,
I love the cat and mouse game. That was like one of my favorite things to do, just calling pitches. So
awesome.
We can also talk about what the hitter's doing in the box that'll lead you to that suggestion that a changeup is the good way. Yeah.
Maybe that was the way I should have framed the question, is to say, what is there ever a tell from the hitter that says that he is susceptible, he's vulnerable for the?
Yeah, a lot of times, especially if the hitter has or our pitcher has a good changeup, they will eventually move up in the box. So a lot of times we will try going through the order, the first time through the order, throwing all fastballs to establish that, and typically that is going to occur we're going to pitch in that first time through the order to instill fear, number one, set up the changeup, and then also set up the breaking ball for when it matters, as in the situation you were suggesting, that 3-2 late in the game with either a base open where we have to make a pitch. So the idea here is that we're not only we're keeping our ace in the back pocket, our ace, the changeup, our breaking ball, but we're also setting up them to be even better than they perhaps really are. But if we do have a second pitch and we do need to get through the order once, I want to stay with fastball, changeup, changing speeds that way. the first or second time through the order, so that on the third time, our starting pitcher, okay, now when we need it is the first time something bends. So that would kind of be our philosophy. Um, so, and during that course of that sequencing, we can watch the adjustments that the hitter's making. I had mentioned that a majority of those times in 0-1 fastballs and 0-0 counts, 1-1 counts, we are going to be coming in hard and expanding the zone, again with the philosophy or the idea that later on in the game that's only going to make our off-speed pitches better. Hitters are going to make an adjustment to that if we are pounding the ball in, especially with some pace, our fastball. So we can, and those adjustments they make will be very apparent if they're getting beat up on the inner part of the plate.
Very good.
And some examples would be choking up. A vertical bat angle is typically going to mean a low ball hitter, so those back foot changeups from a right-on-right matchup are not going to be the greatest pitch in the world. We would want to stay away. Whereas a horizontal bat in the stance, a flat bat it typically means a high ball hitter, so that the changeup would be a better pitch for them with the downward sinking action on a right-on-right matchup.
Okay.
Certainly on a left-hander as well.
All right, and I wouldn't expect you to give away all of your secrets today, but let's do this as the exit question for today's hangout. I'm going to steal it from the great baseball writer George Will. He asks pitchers this question all the time, but I'm going to frame it up for you here. So, as a catcher, your starting pitcher gets to have one of the three: velocity, precision of placement, or movement. Which one do you take?
Wow. I would take movement. My number two is going to be precision. Number three is going to be velocity. I know what you want me to do. You want me to stumble over this and go, but I'm just going to pull the trigger 1, 2, 3 and be done with it, so I don't have to.
No, it was perfect. That's why it was the exit question, and interesting to know. That's what most of the guys told George when he wrote the book Minute Work.
Yeah.
And that's what Hershiser, when he was on that scoreless inning streak that was so phenomenal, that he said that was really where it was at. He's just like, he knew that he could throw the ball and it would move around and still end up a strike if the guy didn't swing at it. That makes you pretty untouchable. So you were right on the money. So again, for those of you who might have joined us late, we're talking with Dr. Clayton Kuklick, teaching assistant professor at the College of Physical Activity and Sports Sciences at West Virginia University. I'm Dr. Rock King. I have all the same things in my title as well. I'm also the co-director for the soon-to-be named Center for Applied Coaching Science. Dr. Kuklick is our chief technologist for the center. Thanks for hanging out with us today, and it should be available via YouTube very near future. So thanks again, Dr. Kuklick, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you very much.